The Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, meets every year, usually in Washington, D.C., and is a key gathering of conservative policymakers, media, and officials from all over the country. Over the last decade, it has also become ground zero for the Trump wing of the Republican Party. This year's lineup of speakers reflected that, with Trump himself, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, and various other Republican elites of the MAGA stripe taking stage. But CPAC is more than just the speakers who take the stage. It's also about the devoted attendees who come to hear them, the thousands of everyday activists who fly in from all over the U.S. to make connections, share ideas, and this year to relish in the restoration of Donald Trump and to buzz with excitement over what he might do over the next few years. I was interested in talking to those people as I went to CPAC this year and to learn more about what it is that interests them about Trump and what specifically they want to see out of a Trump presidency. I talked to a lot of people and heard a lot of different answers. There was some consensus on issues like immigration, DEI, and humor over Trumpian theatrics. I also heard some divisions among attendees. This includes on the topic of Ukraine and Trump's approach to foreign policy in general. But overall, I found every conversation fascinating. Whatever one's own views, and mine tend to be a bit more on the left, I think it's important and can be enjoyable to listen to other people's perspectives and to get a better understanding of what inspires their activism. The people that I met at CPAC were friendly, they were chatty, and they were open to sharing those views. This episode of Zip Code Zero contains excerpts from a range of conversations that I had while on the ground and answered a few questions that I had while leaving a few more open. I hope you enjoy the show. If so, please make sure to subscribe and share, and enjoy. Okay, so we're at CPAC. So what's your name?
Robin Sprague.
Robin, what brings you to CPAC?
Just coming down here to hear all the guest speakers and mostly J.D. Vance yesterday. And Elon Musk was a great surprise that we loved, and waiting for Trump tomorrow.
So what did J.D. Vance say that you thought was good?
I thought that him talking about men and masculinity and women in sports and women being women and men being men again is huge. We need to get back to some common sense.
Was there anything Elon Musk said that you thought was interesting?
I thought he was funny. He was extremely funny. Like at one point they asked him what he thought about people saying that he was in Putin's pocket. And he said, Putin can't afford me. And it was fabulous. Yeah. Absolutely fabulous. And then they brought up Social Security and him digging into people's Social Security background, whatever accounts is in the other, and what he thought about that. And he said, well, maybe if I uncover enough Social Security, I can buy myself something nice. So, it's comical and it's not. It's just sad that they want to argue about him not being elected. It's like, well, 99% of our government's not elected. Yeah. They're lay people that are hired for government agencies. And if Donald Trump wants to hire somebody in a lay agency to do the work that he's looking for, then that's what you get. He hired somebody to do the job, and he's doing an amazing job in uncovering so much corruption that we, the normal people, are excited to get our money back and find out where our money is going, and find out it's being spent on the most bizarre things across the world. It's atrocious.
So you think Trump has been doing well so far?
Absolutely amazing. And I cannot wait to see what the next 3 years and 11 months brings. And I hope they just go, all gas, no brakes, and get it done and bring America back to where she should be.
Is there anything specific that you're looking for Trump to do that he's not done already, either on domestic policy or foreign policy?
No, not really. I think he's done so much in such a short amount of time that I think even our heads are spinning with how much he's getting done. And we're just excited to see where he takes this. And I know that he loves this country just like we do. And he wants to be the greatest country again. And that's where we should be. So just excited to see him take it all the way around full circle and bring us back to where we should be.
And do you have any early favorites for 2028?
I do not. Wait and see who grows, who moves, who does what. I mean, anything can happen in 4 years. So it'd be, great to see J.D. Vance move along, or Glenn Young can move along or whatever. And J.D. Vance is young, not that young, but, everybody's got some.
I think he's pretty young. He's 40.
It's okay. But I'm just saying, like, he's not a baby. He
Yeah.
does have some life experience to pull from, which is fabulous. But imagine where he's going to be in 4 years.
Yes. Yeah.
What he's going to learn and know in 4 years is going to be astronomical. And we're going to be sitting there staring at him going, this is what America needs. Keep going.
And what part of the country are you from?
Right here. I'm a Washingtonian.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yes.
Well, very nice to meet you. Thanks for chatting with us. Enjoy the rest of CPAC.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. So what is your name? And where in the U.S. are you from?
My name's Candace Clough, and I'm right outside of D.C. in Maryland in Montgomery County.
What brings you to CPAC?
I've been coming to CPAC for several years now. I was a Democrat at one time and then became a Republican. And then soon after, I started coming to CPAC annually.
When was that? And what made you switch from a Democrat to a Republican?
Well, I started noticing, I was born and raised a Democrat in a Democrat family in a Democrat county. And basically, I started noticing that the Democrats were not behaving right. You know, the war.
Was this like Iraq or is it what wars?
No. Especially, I started noticing more under Obama in the war and taking out Sudan.
Gaddafi in Libya? Yes, yeah. The unauthorized war against Libya when we attacked Libya.
Yeah. And the way they did that, and then it was like orchestrate the whole thing with they were in the operating room and it was like a theater. And it was like, oh, this is like over the top. And I was already on the road. I've always questioned things anyway. I just never bothered to change parties or actually no. And the Republican Party to me at the time was like, oh, I don't know if I want to be a Republican. Ron Paul was running for president. So that was like the clincher. When I found out he was running for president and what he stood for, that was right in alignment with me. So I became a delegate for him and I ran the local youth kind of group. We would go out on Saturdays and knock on doors and go have junk food afterwards or go to Taco Bell or something. So I was kind of like the mama in the crowd, right?
Yeah.
But we were grassroots. So that was an exciting time, actually. And the last night before the election, I broke my foot putting up a big handmade Ron Paul sign. So that was my roadway, right? My road into or my path into politics. And then I got a call from the person that was running the Ron Paul campaign in the state. And he says, you got to get on the committee. So I found out what the committee was. So I ended up on the Montgomery County Central Committee. Yeah. So that's how I got into it.
So you're more on the libertarian side of the spectrum. If I'm interpreting your activity with Ron Paul.
Yeah, I'm more in alignment with him. Yes. I mean, libertarianism is a little slippery of a slope. And so, true libertarianism is like no borders, right? No borders.
Right.
Not good. We have to have a country. We have to have a strong country, strong borders. So that's not in alignment with my philosophy. And if a true libertarian is going to go that far, it can go that far, I should say.
Yeah. Because I've been a bit of an independent as of late, but what I've appreciated about the libertarian perspective is the critique of government surveillance, government censorship on social media, a lot of things the Biden administration was doing. Libertarians have been great on critiquing the wars in Gaza and Ukraine and curtailing the idea that the United States should be perpetually fueling all these wars overseas. And do you see Trump aligning with that in his behavior so far?
I do now. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think his picks for his administration has been very telling in his coming about with his awareness, because I think during his first term he was in a learning curve. He didn't realize how bad things were. He didn't realize how deep the deep state was. I think that he really woke up during that time, and then after, because he was under attack from before, during, and after. And so during that time, he was able to pull off what he's done thus far, which is an amazing few weeks we've had.
Any highlights from CPAC so far?
I was not in the room when the vice president.
Oh, when Vance was here? Yeah, I heard it was good.
So I really, I think I got to see Elon.
How was that?
That was a lot of fun. And Malay came with his, what was it, chainsaw?
Javier Milei, so the president of Argentina, I believe.
Yeah. So I saw him last time, and that was the highlight for me last time.
Yeah.
Was him, because he is such a strong.
He's a bit of an eccentric character. He's got longer hair, and yeah.
So I that so far that's the highlight. I hear there's other speakers.
Yes, yeah, that was my last question. Anything else you're looking forward to?
Trump.
Is Trump coming? So today's Friday. Is Trump coming on Saturday?
A rumor has it he might be here.
So he's not on the. I can't figure out the app, but so he's not on the official schedule.
Don't feel bad. I've been trying to figure out the schedule. A friend of mine got the app, so I just look at her phone. But yeah, no, I don't think they're going to advertise it
Makes sense,
because of security. Which, I mean, it's it's a smart thing to do, not to say.
Thank you so much for chatting with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference. What brings you back to CPAC? What are you looking for? What have you seen so far that you like?
Well, on one hand, celebrating the massive election mandate as close as we can get to a landslide, seeing the incoming new Trump administration and all the conservatives who are here to celebrate, and on the other hand, like catching up with people I like, having lived in DC, catching up with people around here.
So he said mandate landslide. Trump won the popular vote. He did get under 50% of the vote, and then it was the closest popular vote total since 2000. And there was a 5-member majority in the House, which is down to 3 at the moment, but they've won 5. Do you think that is a very characteristic of a characterization as a landslide?
I believe it's the closest we can have in a polarized world that we've had since the 1990s. If we look at electoral history, essentially, if you look at the numbers, this is as close as you could have to a mandate. But nevertheless, I mean, the election already happened. The administration is in power, and it's full on display here at CPAC, so I'm going to be part of it.
What do you look at? So we've got Trump in the White House, we've got a Republican Senate, we've got a Republican House. We may not have that in 2 years, especially with a very close House. We've probably got 2 years for Republican agenda, maybe a year and a half because of the midterm elections. What are you looking for Republicans to do in the next year and a half, 2 years?
That's right. We have a trifecta, just like we did 8 years ago. The difference now is that the Republican Party is much more on board and has fused with the sort of MAGA movement. Conservative has fused off. And I believe that the priority should be what they are doing right now, civil service reform. Civil service reform within the administrative state is if the president doesn't have control of his own government, everything else can be reversed. The priority for Congress, of course, is what they say they are going to do, which is codify a lot of the things having to do with immigration policy, renewing the tax cuts. But I believe the core of the action is what we're seeing right now, which is exposing corruption.
Other than that, are there any big issues that you think that Trump and Republicans in Congress should focus on?
Other things they should focus, of course. I mean, there's a massive platform that Trump ran again on. Some of the things that he ran on 2016 are continued. There's new things in 2024. Of course, there's going to be like biggest wedge I'd probably say is probably tariffs. It's a complicated issue, whether you use tariffs as policy, use tariffs as actual economic policy or as threats. But I think what we should focus on is encouraging economic growth, deregulation, just like last time with tax cuts, but very much at the same time in the background, deportations as he campaigned on. These things can happen in the background. We don't want to focus on that. The media probably would like to focus on that. What should the main priority should be civil service reform.
What are your perspectives on Ukraine?
Foreign policy is very important. That's actually what I focus on. I believe that currently the war that began 3 years ago, the reason how it began, the context in which it began, had a lot to do with how the U.S. and U.S. diplomacy failed under the Biden administration. We have a chance now to rectify that. Of course, that war has caused massive damage. It's at the end of the day, the Ukrainians, as heroic and courageous as they are, the ones who are suffering and are going to lose the most. It's brought Russia closer to China than it's ever been since the Korean War. That's a massive problem in U.S. grand strategy. We need to keep Moscow and Beijing apart. So the efforts of the Trump foreign policy team led by Rubio, Waltz, everybody else there so far are looking all right. It's only been less than a week since this effort began. So I think that there has to be some framework to resolve it. We have much less leverage, much less control over ending the Ukraine-Russia war than we do over Israel and Hamas, because as you can see, there's much more. The U.S. has much more influence over that than this.
Speaking of Gaza, do you agree with President Trump's plan to move 2 million people out of Gaza and rebuild and have the U.S. take over?
That plan that was announced in a press conference earlier this month with the Israeli Prime Minister is not clear. There's no policy yet. It was a suggestion that he made. It's an effort.
He had reaffirmed it.
That's right. It's reaffirmed as an idea, but as a policy, we haven't seen anything concrete. What it actually means, I think it's like an effort, as always, for the president to shake up conventional ideas about how to do things. Now, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a much longer standing one than what we have in Eastern Europe. It's very difficult to resolve. While the action that has taken place in Gaza with Hamas and Israel, Hezbollah, is different, the broader thing involving the Arab world is very complex. So, whatever these plans, the U.S. has to work with Saudi Arabia and other Arab allies to make it happen. So whatever it is, it's not something that the U.S. can unilaterally happen. But as an idea, to have it as a neutral zone is it's not something that's unbelievable, although it's a new thing. No one's ever made that suggestion.
The Saudis had offered what they call the Arab Peace Proposal in 2002, where they said we will have full normalized relations with Israel, full peace treaty, recognize everything about Israel. It'll all be great as long as Israel withdraws to the 1967 borders, ends the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. That was reaffirmed in 2006, in 2012, 2016, and then most recently in 2024. So they put forth, and when I say Saudi Arabia, it's also endorsed by Egypt and Jordan and many of the other Arab states. So they keep putting forth this idea that if you withdraw to the 1967 borders, we'll have full normalized relations. Do you think Israel should withdraw to those borders?
I don't think that can happen at this point. I think that this initiative you mentioned is over 20 years old now. I think
they reaffirmed it recently.
Yeah, it's been reaffirmed, but there's possibility that the new framework of Abraham Accords started like over 5 years ago. And elements of other initiatives in the past, going back to the early 90s, some elements can be put together. Possibly, it's a complex thing. I mean, I'm going to see where the people who are leading these efforts take it. I hope that they succeed at some level. Again, we can only hope.
What are your thoughts on like Trump and China and East Asia?
Yeah, having looked back at the past 80 years of what we call the Western world, again, we are still a superpower. The fact that we have, under Trump, first or second term, it's America first, that doesn't take away from the U.S. being, we want to remain the world superpower, and the biggest challenge is in China. It's an economic, commercial competitor, and the geopolitics of this moment it's a kind of a very sensitive moment right now because a lot of it is changing. I am hoping, that this America First policy, in line with great power competition, succeeds in maintaining the U.S. not as a hegemon that enforces its power and kind of gets involved in conflicts, and then the grievances of those conflicts, like we just discussed, cause other conflicts, but rather, that we can maintain economic development, trade, prosperity, maintain and secure our interests abroad, but also, as we say, get along, successful diplomacy with other great powers, but at the same time balancing that out with other sovereign nations of the world. And there is hope to do that. There is possibility to do that. I like to say that we postponed the Third World War, like Trump. Yeah, I mean, we were getting very close to a conflict. I mean, it was already, over the past 3 years, it was already escalating it with Eastern Europe. The Middle East, 1 year last year now it's calmed down, but last year at this time was really kind of getting out of control with the first exchange between Iran and Israel ever to happen. You know, the risk of that pattern continuing to Asia would be devastating for the world. You know, we don't want the Chinese. I mean, China's going to be a great power. We're going to have to live with them, but we don't want, we don't want this to escalate into a war. That's the biggest thing.
Are there any particular issues that you're focused on that you think are important for Trump or the Republican Congress?
Well, many. I think what's happening with the economy is very good. The way that things are going with government control, trying to root out the unnecessary spending is wonderful. I would say my top personal priority is the pro-life movement. And since the Dobbs decision, abortions have actually increased in the country. So we've got to really work harder to try to change the culture to a culture of life. And it's nice to see that there was a big presence for that here. That people they see it as important, and it's hopefully going to start to change hearts.
Were you concerned at all when the Republican Party platform leading up to the election took out abortion, and then Trump kind of became a little more moderate on abortion, probably thinking of the general election and what was perceived as a backlash to Dobbs in the midterm elections? Was that concerning for you?
It is. And the Melania's book that came out where she voiced her choice or her abortion opinion. It is concerning, but I feel like overall there's an energy towards focusing on family, the importance of family, the importance of man and woman that can make a baby to make a family, and that's once you start focusing on the family, I think that's going to make a big difference in valuing life and seeing the sanctity of it again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting. Hope you have a wonderful time at CPAC, and it was very good talking with you. Bye. Okay. Are you comfortable saying your name? You don't have to.
My first name, Rob.
Okay. Rob, what brought you to CPAC this year?
This is my 7th time coming. I first started coming in 2008, which is a lot of fun. And then I'm here with my friend from elementary school, actually. So he lives on the other side of the country. So we use this as kind of a meetup time once a year. So we were having a good time. And then obviously, just come and see all the speeches and the various things. And so far it's been pretty good. I mean, one of the things that impresses me this year is the amount of foreign presence. Like we saw 2 prime ministers today. There's more like heavy hitter prime ministers tomorrow. So that's kind of exciting to get that more of a world view. A lot of Americans, we don't get that. So I think that's really a good opportunity here.
So you said 8 years you've been coming to CPAC?
So this is my 7th year.
7th year. Okay. How has it changed?
So what I've seen over the years is a transition from more of kind of like a broad-based view and presentation of conservatism with a lot of different voices. And now it is primarily President Trump, and supporters of President Trump is who we generally hear from. You don't, not that we're looking for dissension or anything, but you used to see more of a cross-section of the conservative movement. And since President Trump's been first started running and coming, and I think we were here the first time he came to see. Exciting to hear. That was an outside voice at the time we weren't hearing from. And so now that he served 4 years, and he was out for 4 years, now he's back. At this point, a lot of the speakers are all President Trump aligned, but which is fine. But I think we are missing a little bit of more of the broad-based other voices that are out there that are still conservative, but that might not be engaged in the MAGA side of it.
What is the number one issue that you want Trump, or given that Republicans have the trifecta right now with a Senate and then a very, some majority in the House, what would you like them to focus on as a first priority issue?
Immigration, absolutely immigration. I think other than that, I think a big issue is Ukraine, at least for me personally.
Ending the war in Ukraine?
What did absolutely working to end it in a fair and reasonable manner. I mean, I will say it is a little mind-bending at times that the MAGA seems to gravitate a little bit more towards Russia, considering that it's historically been the enemy at all times. And I don't know the reason why, but they seem to have gone anti-Ukraine for whatever reason. So, like I said, that to me, I find it a little mind-bending. But hopefully President Trump can use, his negotiating skills and get that war to end, because it does have to end. I think one thing the war did point out, though, is that Russia was weak.
Yeah. And then last question for you, kind of a two-parter. What do you think of J.D. Vance, and who do you have your eye on for 2028?
Already, right? We're 30 days into the second Trump administration, and we're already looking at 2028. I was not a fan of JD's overall. I didn't know much about him, honestly, when he was on the campaign, when he was a senator and then on the campaign trail. I was pretty impressed with his presentation when he came and spoke. He opened it up for us.
Were you there for that? Yes.
Yeah, Thursday morning. He was the first speaker, came out, and I think, it was a good interview. He had a lot of good things to say. And he seems to be, fitting in well to the role. Obviously, President Trump's going to give him a lot of leeway, I think, as much as President Trump would give. But to get out there not just domestically, like we see a lot of our former vice presidents, but out there on the world stage. So I think that'll set him up nicely. As far as looking to 2028, I mean, it's still too soon. I was really impressed today with Byron Donald from Florida, who is not even, he's obviously a representative. Word now is maybe he's going to run for governor of Florida. I had never heard the guy before. I was very, very impressed with him. Other names today, I think Ambassador Grinnell was really, really good. He impressed me today with his speech. Again, I don't know that that's who we're going to look to in 2028, but we'll see.
Well, I
think we have a very deep bench still. Bench. And this year, the bench didn't come out because President Trump he wanted to do it. And so a lot of that bench stepped aside. That's great. 2028 I think it's going to be very, very interesting.
It is kind of interesting. I don't know if you saw that Trump was asked if he sees Vance as his successor, and he said no. And I think the media might make more of that than what that was. It's probably like Trump would like to focus on the here and now and not 2028. It's not like a slight, but
no disagreement with that. I think it's Trump being Trump largely, and it's again we're 30 days into the new administration, and let's just get on with governing the nation and fixing the problems that have accrued over the years.
Thank you very much for chatting. I appreciate it. Rob, appreciate it. Matthew, very nice to meet you both. What are your names and what brings you to CPAC?
Yeah, my name is Ryan, and I'm here to mingle with great people that are conservative-minded, support President Trump, make new friends, and have a great time together.
My name is Chris O'Neill, and I'm here to spend great times with people who are trying to save this country.
My name is John Reed, just here to represent my organization and celebrate some of the major victories we've had in the White House.
What are the big issues that you're looking for the conference to focus on, and kind of looking for President Trump to focus on?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we heard about certainly yesterday was, with Elon coming out, the whole Doge initiative, really kind of trimming the redundancies in government, a lot of the waste of taxpayer funding, moving some programs that aren't necessary or effective. I think that's a really important issue to talk about right now, and I'm glad they're shining light on it.
Are there any concerns? So Elon, the media, they've been kind of focused on Elon getting access to Social Security data or, this or that. Do you think they're going too fast? Do they know what they're doing?
I think that we have a lot of momentum in our movement right now, and I think really what the important thing that Elon is doing is shining a light on a lot of the abuse of taxpayer funds that we've seen a lot. And it's important to point out that Elon Musk is doing the investigative work and advising the president. He's not a cabinet position. He doesn't have a position that's been obviously confirmed by the Senate, of course. He's merely doing investigative work and revealing and shining light to the American people to understand that our taxpayer dollars have been going to a lot of things that maybe we don't support for a lot of years.
How do you think Trump is doing on foreign policy, like Ukraine and all that?
So the very president who was allegedly supposed to start World War III between 2016 and 2020 was actually most successful at keeping us out of foreign conflicts for a long time, right?
In his first term,
in his first term, there was a few, but it was very much a de-escalation of what we have seen in the last 16 years or so. So props to him there. And even going in now, it's like there's no evidence, and he has certainly said nothing about going into other countries. So I think as far as foreign policy goes, he's good on trade and tariffs.
I really like that he's staying out of global conflict. As far as getting Greenland and Canada as the 51st state, I think it's kind of folly. I don't really see the advantage there. I mean, I could see us taking Greenland. That could be a good geopolitical advantage, especially for defense. As far as practicality goes, I don't really know how that'd be a thing. Maybe it could be a centralized place for NATO. Who knows? But, I've been a fan of Trump's foreign policy, not always on his values issues, but definitely on his foreign policy and economics.
What about Ukraine? He's gotten some pushback for his staff had a meeting with the Russians in Riyadh, I think this week. As you probably know, Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance have been to Europe. They've had said things like, the reality is that Ukraine's not going to be in NATO, that, the lines, the Eastern Donbass, the Eastern Oblast in Ukraine are not going to go back to Ukraine, Donbass and Crimea and Zaporizhia and Kherson. Are you comfortable with Trump's position on Ukraine and how he's treating that vis-a-vis the Russians?
I actually genuinely believe that you can call me a neocon if you want, but I do believe that supporting Ukraine, not by sending boots on the ground, but sending them our secondhand materials that we wouldn't use anyways, sending it there to help defend themselves against Russia is good, not just for America, but for the global benefit. I don't think Putin's going to stop at Ukraine. I don't think he's necessarily going to go into all the countries that are on the other side. But just because he's new, he's new in time, but he's not new Russian. He's still old Russian, right? He's still a Soviet guy. He has roots in Soviet, right? So I think that he would possibly go after former Soviet countries who are now part of NATO. And if he were successful there, that would indeed make us have to put boots on the ground by part of our agreement, right? So that's why I'm like, if we can supply them with what they can do to defend themselves, that means we don't got to get involved. And it means that NATO doesn't get attacked, and therefore we don't got to put boots on the ground. So I think there's an advantage there to help Ukraine that way. I don't like how much we've been doing with our money. I think it's better if we get materials. We just got to be fair to what's actually happening.
So Trump had said a few times, most recently in the Oval Office, that his perspective is that the expansion of NATO and trying to get Ukraine into NATO by the Biden administration, it started under the George Bush administration, had to help provoke the conflict. And he had said something like, no country would want, I'm not using his exact words, but a hostile military alliance on their border. It's kind of the Mersheimer review, the Elbridge Colby, the right kind of view, but something that Trump has expressed. Do you feel that NATO expansion played any role?
I don't mind putting Ukraine into NATO. I think keeping them out of NATO has given Russia a lot of liberty. I think the benefit outweighs the risk.
Final question, is there, on a domestic policy front, is there one issue that you're interested in, Trump or the kind of Republican trifecta in the House, the Senate, the White House? They probably got 2 years before, maybe they'll lose the House majority. What should they get done in the next 2 years? What's the number one issue?
There are upwards of 1 million unborn babies killed every year in America. And I'll talk foreign policy, I'll talk economics, I'll talk other stuff. But reality is the greatest evil that we have in America today is abortion. As evil as slavery was, abortion is way worse. I don't say that to undermine the evil of slavery, but rather to highlight how evil abortion really is, right? And so we need to do everything we can, not just to play games, not just to mitigate, not just to minimize, but to completely eradicate abortion. If you don't have life, then no good policy matters.
Thank you very much for chatting with me. You're very nice to meet you. What's your name and what brought you to CPAC?
I don't want to give my name.
You don't have to give your name. You give a fake person.
I'll give you my confirmation name.
Okay.
Peter.
She was Catholic.
Yes.
Correct. Peter, all right. Peter, what brought you to CPAC?
All year long, I've been sort of isolated from this sort of energy. So once a year, I like to come let it all out. I like to come to a place where I could be open and express myself.
About what, like immigration or DEI or foreign policy?
I would say just about the family unit. For me, everything stems from, is this going to be good for the nuclear family? That's the first question I ask when there's any policy position. Will this help me and my fellow Americans have a family and have kids? Because if we don't have kids, then they're going to say, we need to open the borders for an aging population. Then all of a sudden, the country has different people, different values, different culture, different laws, different rules, different everything.
The reason I wanted to swing by and chat with you guys, You look relatively young. The Republicans and Trump had won the under 30 male crowd. You'd say, it's kind of look under 30. Maybe I'm wrong. Are there any issues that you guys are focused on? You kind of talked about the family. Sounds like abortion stuff to me. It doesn't seem like always a big issue for young men. Are there others like woke issues, immigration?
Abortion, getting married, divorce rates, child custody, visitation, everything that comes with the law that comes with the risk of getting married. What are we doing with alimony? I know Ron DeSantis just got rid of alimony in Florida. A lot of the states are looking at it. We can't have a system where if you want us to get married, marriage and family is the lifeblood of a nation. But if you make it so anyone could just get divorced in a second and destroy generational wealth, my parents worked hard and are married and saved money to pass on to us. I get married and what? My wife could take that all in a second? Decades of sacrifice and discipline, the Democrats, what really sold it was when they came out and said, lie to your husband, lie to your wife, tell your husband you voted for Harris or for
the ad where they had you don't need to tell your husband who you voted for. What do you guys think of Trump's position in Ukraine?
The number one thing with Ukraine is we spent hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine when we have no money here. We have property taxes are out of control. We have states that are paying $10, $15, $20, $30,000 a year in property taxes for what? I have to forego getting married and having a kid because I can't afford it and we're paying all our tax money to this other country. I can't even pick them out on the map. I don't even know where that is on a map, and I wouldn't help Western Europe. I wouldn't even help Canada. What happened? Why can't we care about our own country? They're not going to help us. If Mexico or Canada invaded America, Ukraine ain't going to send us money. It's a wash. Anytime there's money, it's corrupt. We're not sending them money for nothing. We're not just being nice. Joe Biden and the U.S. government isn't just nice. They're doing it because they're getting money for themselves. The kickbacks follow the money. It is corrupt. We're not sent there. Where are the weapons? We left all those weapons in Afghanistan with the keys in the fucking ignition. Why didn't we just light them on fire? I've been playing Age of Empires since I was 10 years old. I could tell you immediately, bro, light them on fire. Just light them on fire. Don't leave the keys in the ignition. Take the key at least. They can't make a new key with a computer chip in Afghanistan. It's kickbacks. It's illegal. It's fraudulent. And we have so many people, especially in this area, that are complete losers. They can't cut in the private sector. They can't make a dollar. They couldn't rub two sticks together, but they're millionaires. But their kids get to go to the Ivy Leagues and live away at college and live these dream lives while my dad works in a warehouse for fucking $65,000 a year. Fuck that. They need to get a job.
Thank you for chatting. Enjoy the rest of the time at CPAC.
Zelensky to get a job.
I think Trump is telling him that.
Good.
So, what's your name and what brings you to CPAC?
My name is Jennifer, and I am MAGA Miss Right on social media.
All right. Okay, so have you been talking to people, or are you here to collect content for your media venture?
You know what? This is actually my first time at CPAC. I've always wanted to come, so I actually was hedging about coming because I had so much work to do, but then I just said, you know what? Screw it. I'll just come to get the lay of the land. I was really not prepared. I had no idea where to go, but so far it's been amazing. Everybody's amazing, from the press to the people who are here. And again, it's very diverse.
Diverse in what way?
Well, I've met Haitians, I've met Indians, I've met, people from all walks of life. You've got people probably who have Bentleys and people who are like hardworking Americans who own small businesses that got screwed during COVID, and they're here just supporting Trump.
And are you local, or did you fly in, drive in?
I actually drove. I drove in. I had to drive through the mountains.
From where?
Ohio.
Oh, what is the kind of big issue that you were interested in, focus on, want to hear about when you're at CPAC?
Well, honestly, I just really came to celebrate. This is it was a huge victory. I wanted to be around like-minded people. I've always been Republican, conservative. I used to live in California, New York.
So I always have,
Republican havens.
yes, exactly. So it's nice to be like with my people, I guess.
So J.D. Vance, a vice president that Trump had selected, he was viewed as not unorthodox, but kind of what I would view as an evolving kind of Republican. What are your thoughts on him?
If you were like going to pick a DEI hire, J.D. Vance is perfect.
J.D., really? How?
He's married to an Indian woman. He's got a military background. He grew up without a father. His mother was addicted to drugs. He had he brought himself up from nothing. Well, I mean, I'm not for DEI, obviously, but I'm just saying.
And then remind us again where we can follow you.
MAGA Misrights on Instagram and on X. And if I get my TikTok account, maybe I'll be that on there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was very good chatting. I appreciate it.